already work in Brazil, that already work in French Guiana, people doing captive management here in the States or in Europe. And as I said before, it's a very sensitive species. So the objectives of the project are to characterize the species habitat uses and home range, to explore the snake interaction with other animals and potential prey, to describe reproductive behavior patterns in wild and in captivity as well. So this is the results are actually historical data collection of which I was part of for the last 30 years in Ecuador, just being part of some research. And the orange is using modeling. We just suppose that these are still good habitat for the lachesis. So this is Esmeralda province, and this is Manabí province. Manabí province, one of the most fragmented areas. So I don't think, or I am sure that lachesis here are very, very, in very strong issues for survival. So that is why I concentrate my project there. It was not easy, but I will outline some of the reasons why I chose this area to study. So my study is planned for a 5-year study and just starting like 1 year and a half, well, 1 year, 3 months to be precise. Sorry. So now, the study site. Of course, working with venomous snakes, it would be great to study in totally wilderness, but it is not possible. So I need to find out people that is already running reserve, private reserve most of the time, because working in government reserve, there are a lot of issues. However, these guys were, the FCAT Reserve, Fundación para la Conservación de los Andes Tropicales, accept very easily they were open to carry out the project. So the only issue for them was, so what about the exposure of our staff to snake bites? And I thought that they are exposed doing botany anyway. So rather than the great opportunity to train yourself in snake management. And that's why they were like, oh, okay. So I was training their staff for a year before starting actually the project. So this is located there. And just to mention and outline that, yes, it's one of the most dangerous places to be in terms of security. Yes, I am not going to lie to you. However, do not listen 100% all of the news that you're listening from Ecuador, especially for American citizens. And Emily came down, and you cannot imagine how safe it can be just inside the reserve. The issues are around going to there, but I mean, it's like not taking risks in any place in the world, like going out, going to get drinks in a bar, so that are the potential chances to get kidnapped, but not just going to the reserve, you know? So yes, it is an amazing forest, and I will let you know. So the forest looks like this. Can you imagine looking for a bushmaster there? I mean, I was like, everybody was, are you seriously going to do that? I was, yeah. So anyway, so before the study was actually having a shape, I asked the guys in the reserve to provide me data. They are a reserve doing research in many different areas, in mammals, in birds, seed dispersion, but the snakes were of course not their priorities. And I was asking, oh, do you have, I was talking with the staff, and they were, yes, we have some data isolated, not very well collected in a like that. So that's the paradise for lachesis. So yes, I went, and the forest is amazing, and of course that was like, okay, I am going to challenge myself to start doing this project there. And comparing to other research that I was in contact with, this one was the research that was recording more encounters of lachesis compared to other research, local research. Okay, Yeah, so this is the reserve here. All of the, look at how disturbed is the air in the surroundings, right? I didn't have no choice. So all of the red is the trails that the reserve has for other research purposes, and here is the site station. So I went there, I was evaluating the area with the guys from the staff, which have a very great knowledge about forest, and I am amazed about the information they have. So we were just tracking these places before going actually to carry out the project. And I was just like making like some criteria about my experience and reading books about what would be the perfect place to release the wild caught lachesis. And my concerns were, what if the snake passed to that area? And I was working with the people around saying, please, if you've seen a lachesis, do not kill it, it's my baby. And they were like, okay, this lady's really crazy. So that is how the study area looks like. And then I just decided to do one individual by to let you know why. And it was season 1, which was basically following every single day for 15 days in a row, waiting 4 days a day, doing diurnal and nocturnal shifts with people from the staff. That was tough because, of course, it's people that work during a daily basis in the reserve, and me doing things during the day and in the night. It was like there were guys that they were, are we going to sleep at some point? And I was, oh my God. So that was like paying people for the morning and paying people for the night, but I need to train a group of people that let some rest and so at least I was training 5 people to be my field assistant. So that was a big challenge. So data was collected in a format like that, where we mainly have date, individual number, vegetable, how the forest looks like, temperature, precipitation. I was pretty much interested to understand how is the selection of the snake in terms of some type of trees, there are caves, blah, blah, blah. That was to establish a format to understand and be able to measure in the future if they are showing us one chance of selection of habitat. So that is my female that is released. So actually, and this is a female that I was found in another reserve, and actually it is a translocation. So I moved her from this reserve to this reserve, but this animal was almost going to be killed. Someone called me, and I went to get her. It came to my place in 2019. It is a big female, and she was in captivity since 2019, and I was keeping her in captivity for reproductive purposes. However, going 1.5 years to the reserve before the study actually started, I couldn't find any wild snake, 0. And keep going with the project. I was already arranging people coming from the States. I was already paying some of the cost of the reserve, and I was not going to say, no, I can cancel the project. Okay, so I took that female as a plan B to the reserve. We traveled to the reserve expecting to find one animal at least, and we couldn't. So we decided to put the radio leader in this amazing female that is still there. And she is already tracked for 45 days, sorry, this is a mistake, and I released her on the 12th of February of 2024. So having my large experience in animal captive, in reptile captive management and focus on venomous snakes, I am really interested to understand how many things we can do in captivity rather than do in wild, not because I am not interested to measure things in the wild, but this is more expensive. So better if I take advantage already of the animals I'm having in captivity, such as measuring the development of ovaries and checking many, many situations about their health, blah, blah, blah. So I have a large experience in measuring these in animals that I was working in captivity, and that is why that experience helped me to actually carry out the project in the wild. So I am pretty much very interested in evaluating, okay? So I am pretty much interested in mating behavior, reproductive development, and common diseases in these species. So, as you should know, some people is already having success in Europe, in the States, about reproduction in lachesis. That is my dream, and I hope one day I'm going to see that in wild, because this is one of the most zero information aspects. So it's the only neotropical snake that like eggs, no reports about reproductive behavior in the wild, only one report from Colombian Secretarium, and it is pretty much a big help from colleagues doing already reproduction in other sister species. So part of the published that I am a co-author about snakes from Ecuador, a book that is a compilation of only the vipers and the lapids. So help us to collect information about animals that we were collecting and describe and talking about lachesis. We have only this data about her that is one copulation. It was in the month of May, egg laying in the month of August, I guess. Yes, and birds in the month of December. That's the only data from wild. And I can compare it with sister species like Lachesis muta. So this work, this book, took us 30 years to do because there is no information. So we were comparing, collecting, checking museums, specimens, blah, blah, blah. So it was a large, very demanding time. But anyway, this data help us. So now also reproductive behavior about this number of eggs that are published by ENAO in 2014, but actually I have an unpublished data of one of the females I was having in captivity who was huge. I think I need to be, if I am right, it's like 3.9 meters. It's probably the largest female. I am not published yet, probably in my free time sometime. And I opened her and she has 28 eggs. The biggest amount of a litter in a lachesis, and okay, so this is again the only information I got. So now the radio telemetry, it was a huge challenge. I didn't have experience, but just having friends coming to events like this, I was just learning, being inspired, and I was just checking which kind of devices I can get. You need to understand that being in South America, every single thing we need to import as a technical thing is very expensive because Ecuador doesn't have a normal courier. We need to always pay for private couriers that are so expensive. Plus, the fact that, as I said at the beginning, the equipment is very nice, but I mean, we are working with equipment that it was not used in that kind of conditions. And the day that we were going to release the Wishmaster, the receiver just failed. And I was like holding in semi-captivity the animal that we put the transmitter, one more month until the receiver comes to States, fix, and go back to Ecuador. These are the kind of, now I have 3 receivers just in case. So, okay, anyway, so we took the animal from the city to the reserve. It's like 6 hours driving in a very hot condition, like very close and similar to here. So we leave the animal for a couple of days until the animal stabilizes, and then thanks to Emily, I met this amazing guy, like Dave Denardo, who was set, came down and take the risks to be kidnapped to go to the reserve and help doing the radio transmitter procedure. So it was fun. It was very, very demanding because we were doing every single of the things of the surgery in the reserve. So, I mean, just taking advantage of the knowledge he has and the knowledge I have and all of the team. So we did it. So using isoflurane. The animal was under anesthesia. We used the ATS-R 1545 rate transmitter that lasts for, well, I need to go back on February and grab the animal and decide to change the rate transmitter. And that was fun. The animal was completely okay, and the day after we released it. And after 2 weeks, this guy appeared. I'm sure it was a male, but we didn't collect it. And another guy appeared. I don't know. I don't have a guess about that one. So around the area, just a new girl is in town maybe. I don't know. So another thing is, again, my interest to collect snakes from the reserve are still on place. However, it's not that I collect the animal and put the radiometer and just I need to evaluate because of the purposes of my research. However, this guy, who it was me, a male, it was so skinny. Even if it has 2 meters and 5, it was 2.7 in weight. It was not, in my opinion, to be a good candidate for the receiver. So I took him to captivity, taking the risks. That we know what would happen, and yes, these animals get immunodepressed easily because of the transportation, blah, blah, blah. And even if I do my best, the animal start coming down, which mainly because for many things, but mainly because of some of the parasites as part of their disease, like the parasites. So I opened the animal died after a month, I guess, and we were just getting some of the parasites that are also very interesting because every single cases from wild come intersected with these guys. We need to know, we use the normal anti-parasites. We need to be careful about the dosage because again, this is a sensitive species and we never ever did that before and so on. So that are the issues around working with these species that information is not available. Also, interesting information from this guy that even if it's now dead, it was an amazing specimen, but he, in the pieces, show us some of the spines that we are still guessing one of these species can be, because some of these are distributed in Ecuador, some others don't, so we need to be careful just to classify it as the typical spiny rat is the trait of Acacia, yes, but some species are not in Ecuador, so we need to be careful and working with some mastologists to understand a little bit about that. I mean, it's very interesting how one animal can bring you a lot of